Well, there has been a little girl who was missing in 2009, and they finally found her. I mean, it's sad to say that she wasn't alive. They did find her remains, but in a case like this, that it is necessary to have closure. Her family and friends and everyone, they needed closure, and I hope that this brought them that. The article says, "We've brought Lindsay home. Remains of 10-year-old girl who vanished in 2009 have been found." Somewhere in the 4 blocks between her house and her friend's house in rural Washington state, a 10-year-old girl disappeared in 2009 and was never heard from again. Hundreds of officers, volunteers, and cadaver dogs repeatedly combed through the small town of fewer than 2,000 people in search of Lindsay Baum, a brown-haired, brown-eyed girl who loved Harry Potter and Twilight. Thousands of dollars in reward money produced countless tips, but nothing led to the girl, who vanished in McCleary, Washington on June 26, 2009, less than 2 weeks before her 11th birthday. "I just need my daughter home. Lindsay, please come home. You're not in trouble," Melissa Baum said, according to a 2009 article by the Daily World newspaper in Aberdeen, Washington. Nearly 10 years later, the search for Lindsay ended. A new one, this time for the person responsible for her death, began. Look at that little girl. She looks so innocent and, just breaks my heart. Last September, hunters found human remains in a remote part of eastern Washington. The remains were brought to an FBI lab in Virginia for DNA analysis. Several months later, Grays Harbor County Sheriff Rick Scott, who had been involved in the investigation since 2009, announced that they were Lindsay's remains. "I'm here today to share with you that we've brought Lindsay home. Sadly, she was not recovered as we and her family had hoped, and I prayed these last 9 years. Investigators believe the girl was kidnapped after she left her friend's home that night and was later killed. For the last 9 years, we've not been able to say definitely what this was beyond. Let's see. We have not been able to say definitely what this was beyond it was a missing child," Scott said. "Certainly the prayers and hopes of the family is that we would someday find her alive and bring her home. Now the reality is we need to find a homicide suspect." Scott declined to share the location where her remains were found, only saying that it's seasonally visited by hunters. He also declined to answer questions about what led investigators to believe that she had been killed. The sheriff's office in Cadiz County, more than 100 miles from McCleary, said Saturday that the remains were found there, in a steep, heavily timbered area with large cliffs and deep ravines. Searchers combed the area over the weekend looking for evidence in connection to the girl's death. Lindsay was last seen around 9:15 p.m. on June 26, 2009, when she was supposed to walk the 4 blocks to her home. Her mother reported her missing later that night. The girl's family immediately dismissed notions that she might have run away or was hiding. "If she had been hiding, she would have come out by now," Melissa Baum told the Daily World newspaper shortly after her daughter disappeared. "She can't hide that long. She loves to walk." Lindsay was also afraid of the dark and wouldn't have just wandered around. She was superstitious about it. To her, midnight to 1 a.m. was the witching hour, her family told the Daily World. Her father, Scott Baum, pleaded for her return as he faced a deployment to Iraq without knowing what had happened to his daughter. "Please bring my daughter home," he said at a news conference in July 2009, according to media reports. "I'm fixing to deploy to Iraq, and tomorrow is her birthday." In October 2009, investigators released a search warrant outlining suspicious activity and inconsistent statements that led them to a man living outside McCleary, the Daily World reported. The man had been involved in disturbing conversations about Lindsay and had previously been accused of sexual assault, but investigators did not find any evidence of wrongdoing in the man's home. As the first year anniversary of Lindsay's disappearance approached, Scott, then the undersheriff, announced that investigators would ramp up their efforts. Witnesses would be re-interviewed and areas in and around McCleary would be searched again. "We're going to be here as long as it takes," Scott told reporters at a news conference in April 2010, according to the Olympian. "We're still as tenacious in our investigation as we were from day one. 9 years to the investigation that has now taken a different turn," Scott promised, "to bring the monster that's responsible for this and hold them accountable. There's someone out there that knows who did this and how this happened. And there's more people out there that have information that would be the nugget that we need to explode this investigation and culminate in an arrest," he told reporters Saturday. "We need those people to have the courage to come forward and share that information anonymously through a text message, however it is they wish to convey that." Oh, just, it breaks my heart really bad, just, I don't know, it's so sad. I can't imagine, I can't imagine something like that happening to one of my children, that one of my kids, it's bad enough for your child to just be missing, for any amount of time, because the whole time that they're missing, even if you just don't know where your kid is for a few hours, and then they come home, that is like just a heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching feeling. It's sickening. Okay, but then for your child to be missing, for days and weeks and months and then 10 years, I can't even imagine, because I know that for those 10 years, I mean, the parents, they, they're grieving the entire time. They don't really they don't have that closure. They don't, the whole time that the child's missing, they're wondering if their child is alive. I mean, that has got to be torture. And my heart goes out to anyone who is going through anything like that. It's just, it's unimaginable. I can't imagine that. But I am glad, though, that they did find her. Even though she wasn't alive, I mean, that would have been a wonderful story to hear, that they did find her alive after 10 years. But now at least the family doesn't have to go the rest of their lives searching and wondering what happened to her. At least they know what the outcome was, and now they can finally start to the real mourning and grieving process, and somewhat be able to move on to the next chapter of their lives. So I would like to, I am going to pray for their family, um, you know, for the healing and strength. And, I ask y'all to do the same. Say a prayer for her family, her friends. I know it's a sad time for them, but, it's also a little bit of just somewhat of a little joy, just to be able to know that their baby, that they can have closure, and, and now, move on to the next step, is to find out who did this to that baby. So y'all leave your comments and feedback below. If y'all would like to send me anything, please feel free to do so in my email, or you can send it to me on Facebook. My Facebook link will be listed underneath the video also. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.